Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Silverlake Priestess Podcast. I'm your host, Jaime Black, and I'm here today with Joan Hyman. We are going to talk about yoga and Ayurveda. Welcome to the show, Joan.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So, just a little info about Joan. Joan was one of my first yoga teachers, and I met her in my first 200 yoga teacher training. And I met her and Jean Heilemann, who we've had on the show, at the same time. And this powerful combination of women kind of became my foundation for all of my knowledge of yoga and my practice. And I'm just always so forever grateful for that opportunity. And I feel like so lucky and so blessed to have shown up with the combination of you two. I mean, I had no idea. I was coming from doing yoga at the park, which was also a awesome experience, but coming into a studio, coming into doing yoga on the wood floors, coming into like alignment, like bone on bone alignment, and just learning all of the anatomy. I mean, all of it. It was just life changing. So here we are today. And so I wanted to have you here and to talk about yoga. And what spurred this is that, and we'll talk about this later, but Joan is offering something coming up that is a teaching around yoga and Ayurveda. And I just thought it would be really wonderful to have you on here. And I would love to ask you about your yoga practice and have you tell us a little bit about what Ayurveda is. And I would just want to hear about you and your journey. So
Oh,
welcome.
thank you, Jamie.
You're
So,
welcome.
yeah, it's been a journey. I think what's really cool, we had just acknowledged that you took our teacher training in 2010. So it's been 11 years, and it's crazy how different everything is right now. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, and I've been practicing for about 25 years. I started in New York in the late 90s at Jivamukti. I went to Om, and it wasn't really until I came to LA and I was introduced to Mati Zirati and Lisa Walford at Yoga Works. Then I really became a dedicated Ashtanga practitioner, became a full-time yoga teacher. I got my yoga works certification. And, after 15 years of yoga works, I think shortly after, you did my teacher training with Jean, I went over to Wanderlust.
Oh, yes,
And
right.
that was a ride. That was a whole experience. And then pretty much for the past 10 years, I've been a traveling yoga teacher. And then COVID hit. So here I am at my computer almost every day and still teaching. So it's definitely been a big journey. And I've recently started my own 300-hour yoga school. I have a 200-hour program too, called the School of Yoga. And it's team taught. I'm the lead teacher, but Jean Heilemann is one of the teachers, Annie
Mm,
Carpenter, Marla Apt. And then we
wow.
have Christina Halapana, who's from she has two yoga studios from the Philippines. That's where I met her. But she also has a retreat center in New Zealand. And she's my business partner. And she actually teaches the business of yoga. And we just ran a business of yoga module in March. That was our module we ran in March. And then Jean and I have a yoga and Ayurveda coming up at the end of this month in August. So yeah, that's what's really been keeping me busy lately.
That's awesome. So is it that people can take portions of this, and then is it also like part of like a whole teaching that someone who's maybe wanting to get the certification from you can?
Well, yeah, and so the idea was actually born when I went over to Wanderlust, because when I went to Wanderlust, I was directing the 200-hour program, and we were trying to find a program for the 300-hour where students didn't have to pay one lump fee, and they could just take it like electives, if it was
Mm,
convenient for them, if they had the extra money. And so also at Wanderlust, it was team taught. And then after I left Wanderlust, I was trying to figure how I can do this. And what was really important to me was that I had teachers that were very authentic and that, were very experienced to the practice of yoga, like they walk the walk. And Annie and Marla, I've been taking their classes for years. Jean has been a colleague of mine. Jean and I started teaching together in 2010. We're also friends, and I highly respect Jean. And Jean also has just this vast amount of information about the subtle body and, all the yogic texts. So I was trying to figure out how I can string this together. And all of us were traveling yoga teachers. So it was really hard to be in one spot at the same time. And
Mm.
the idea of virtual learning before 2020, it wasn't really that popular. And so this was really born in 2020. And so now pretty much once a month, students have a choice to take the module. In February, we ran a module called Teaching Yoga for Special Populations. So it talked about teaching yoga for anxiety, depression, trauma,
Mm.
getting yoga for better sleep. So every month we have something. And usually the modules are anywhere from 10 hours to 30 hours. And the students, and they're from all over the world, have a choice to take whatever module they like. And, according to how much money they have at the time, because, these trainings can get costly. And also if it fits into their schedule. I mean, there's certain requirements. And, hopefully we will start adding some in-person trainings once travel restrictions lift. But, I think this is a really fantastic way to connect a worldwide community of yogis with really well-known established teachers. And for me, it's been amazing to work with Jean again, to work with Annie, to work with Marla. I highly respect these teachers. So it's also just helping me to continue to create new content and just to continue to up-level my teaching.
This is awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's, obviously it was a hard year for so many reasons, but so many amazing opportunities have come from all of this. And one of the things that I always say about Los Angeles, I'm like, I know there's a few other places that it's also that way, but like this is one of like the meccas of yoga. It's maybe if you're not in LA, you wouldn't think that, but it's just it's super spiritual here. People are they're very into getting into their body, but they're also very into getting in touch with their emotions and their spirituality. People tend to be interested, at least, in cultivating a meditation practice here. And when I would travel other places and live in other places for short periods of time, the thing that I lacked, or the thing that was missing the most, was my yoga classes. And what I was really getting out of taking classes from you and some of the other teachers that you mentioned, just for anyone that's listening, I would balance my schedule really between taking Jean and Joan's classes because they really have something totally different to offer. And Jones would have these classes, like I think on Fridays, and there would be live drummers in the class, and you'd have like the class would be packed full and everybody would be mat to mat. And there's just something so powerful about being with so much energy and just, trying to hold warrior two, and you're just dripping sweat and the drums are going. And something about the way that you taught it, though, it was so easy for my body to move. And for just my body type and the way that my body is, yoga can be really hard for me. Like I can do all this martial arts and my body moves in the way that it moves, but when I come to yoga and I'm really focusing on alignment, it's hard for me. And so I always felt really empowered in your classes. My body always felt really strong in your classes. And I loved being able to move, and that experience of the drums. I mean, I even got to play live music in some of Joan's classes a couple times. But so that's really awesome that you're offering these teachings and that people can have access. And that's something really cool that just has happened. I mean, I even went to some festivals over the summer online and really got to connect with people. I mean, and it was a tantra festival and it was about communication. I just, I learned a ton. And so it was less like bouncing around and talking to different people and more about like really integrating and receiving information that is being offered. Because there's and people are like, oh, I'm done with Zoom. But the thing about doing classes like this is that it's really like you're really connected to it. It's really direct. So there's not a lot of distraction.
Right. And you're right. It's very informative. It's very informational based. And I do miss teaching in that group setting, but a lot of times in the group setting, people are more comfortable to share. So a lot of times it becomes more of discussions, also because there's just a lot of people in a room, just to get things started, everybody's talking. So it is more social, where on Zoom, people are less open to sharing. I think people actually get a little nervous.
Mm.
So it really is that, just direct line of information.
And I never thought that I would love doing yoga in my home so much, because
Yeah.
I'm somebody who kind of needs to get out of the house and I need that social aspect. And then just, clearing enough space in my room just to do yoga has really actually given me my practice at home.
Yeah. Well, and yoga is really ultimately about self-practice. And so I think I've taught
Mhm.
like almost 1,000 Zoom classes this year. It's been really interesting to actually look and see people in the comfort of their home and see them with their animals and their partners and their
Mm.
kids. And it's actually very intimate. And I think, and I've been taking a lot of classes on Zoom too. And I think self-practice takes the competitive nature out of it. And also, like when you get done your shavasana, I think more people are meditating more. Like you have that
Mm.
chance to be really quiet and inwards. And when you're at a studio, it's like right away you start talking and you just go outside yourself. So I think there's a lot of really great benefits to practicing on Zoom. And I know I'm going to keep my Zoom classes going even when things do open up again.
Yeah, that's great. I've been really hopeful for that. And I've said, in some of the classes that I've been in, can someone please just still have, a class so that I can be in at home? Because it is to be able to stay in Shavasana a little bit longer and then do your meditation. And then you're in the space that you did all that work
Yeah.
when you wake up.
Yeah, yeah. And also, Zoom is a little bit cheaper for students, so it's
Mm.
much easier for them to come to class. I know my platform, I record the classes. And so right after I send the recording out, so if you missed class or if you just want to take the class again, you still have that opportunity. So, and also for a teacher to set up a whole paywall and a whole system, I mean, financially, you have to invest. So I think a lot of us are on this other side right now. So we'll probably keep it going.
Yeah. Well, I think that all of this has been created for like a reason. It was almost like there was this situation that happened, and then it also opened up this window for
Mhm.
all of this to happen. I've been in school. I went back to school during all of this, and I've done all of it on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, what was happening in the yoga world, it was getting very corporate. And it wasn't trickling down. When I first started teaching yoga, especially, in the like 2000, 2001, the community was small and the teachers were really amazing and, just so authentic to what they were teaching. And we would have potlucks all the time. And then, we would practice. And through the practice, we would get classes at Yoga Works or whatever studio. So, over 20 years, the yoga world has gotten so big that a lot of really great teachers are kind of, being on the back burner here. And it's not being sprinkled down the way it should. So I think the Zoom platforms have given a lot of teachers to own their own content, to really
Right.
not have to split the financial aspects with the studios, to teach according to what they really want to teach and not have to teach according to the style of the studio. So, maybe this has been a blessing from the universe.
I think so. Blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a few questions I want to ask you. Um, you you were practicing Ashtanga when I met you, and so something I knew about you is that you did dance, and
Mhm.
then it was that all that's like high energy, and that's probably how you found Ashtanga. I'm imagining, and how that like spoke to you because it was also like high energy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I was a dancer. I was dancing in New York, and I actually was dancing I got a show in Las Vegas, and it was really in Las Vegas where I was introduced to the Ashtanga method. And this, like I said, I think this was in 2000, 2000. It was right before 9/11. And there was only Bikram studios, or I think there was some Ashtanga studios, but there was a Bikram studio that was right down the street from me. And, Las Vegas is already super hot. But I ended up going to that studio and I was very homesick, like leaving New York. I'm from Philadelphia. So this was a big transition for me. And I found a lot of peace just going to the yoga rooms. I mean, Bikram, I took to it because it was there. And, there's something to be said about the set sequences. I felt like the Bikram sequence warmed me up for my show. but I also knew that I needed something deeper. And before I came to Las Vegas, I was practicing at Jiva Mukti, which also had a strong Ashtanga vibe because of David and Sharon. So somebody had introduced me to the David Swenson book. And, the David Swenson book has all of the Ashtanga poses out. And I'm very long. I have I have very open hamstrings. So actually primary series came very easy to me. And I learned it out of the book. And so I learned primary series, and somebody had said, if you really want to learn Ashtanga yoga and understand how to teach yoga and what the practice is about, go to Yoga Works in Santa Monica and study with Mati Ziratzi. And so I drove there with like 3 of my girlfriends from Las Vegas, and we went into this Mysore room, and this was like a hard core Mysore room. Like, I don't know if you know these teachers, but like Sean Korn was there, and Annie Carpenter was there, and this guy Charles was there with this long hair. And I mean, this was just like the real deal type of yogis. And I had never seen that before. And then I also felt Mati and just her intensity and the braids and the way she walked around the room. And it struck me to the core of my being, where I actually walked out of the room. Like, it was just one of those times where you just freeze. And then the next day, a friend of mine who was from Las Vegas, and she had already been practicing in the room, she said, why don't you come in with me? And she goes, I know the room could be intimidating. So I went in with her. I met Mati, and Mati let me do all of primary. And then I remember after that, like, that's all I could think about. I was just so hooked. It was like obsessive. And I started really making trips to Santa Monica to study with Mati. And then eventually I did the teacher training with her. So that really was one of those moments in your life where it was a turning point, but you don't realize how significant it was until you actually really look back on it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I still practice Ashtanga yoga till this day. It's 21 years.
Wow. Every day?
Every day. Lately I've been practicing a lot of Iyengar. I've always flowered Iyengar in with my practice. I mean, that's really what the Yoga Works teacher training was. And then, in 2009, I was working through a back injury. So the Iyengar practice really helped me heal my back. And when quarantine happened, I had been traveling for about 2 years pretty consistently, like I think 15, 20 countries a year.
Wow.
I know. But it was really starting to affect my practice. And I developed something in my hip called piriformis syndrome. And I also felt like just my adrenals were taxed. So when quarantine first happened, I did Marla app. She had this virtual retreat for 3 weeks. And I did that. And right away, I started to see how my body was healing. The Iyengar method's really good in like balancing out the nervous system. And Marla was really adding a lot of restoratives in because it was so traumatic initially when we all went into quarantine. And so after, I'm healed, I went back into my advanced practice, but I still take about 1 or 2 Iyengar classes a week. I'm pretty religious with that.
I like that practice too. That was really good for me when I would have injuries.
Yeah. And I think too, something that I noticed where Ashtanga is great because it really fires you up and it gives you all this, like, it's a practice of transformation. So it cultivates that fire, where the Iyengar method, I feel like it's a practice of concentration. So it really actually helps to slow my mind down. And I feel like it prepares me for meditation afterwards. So I think the two are a really good complement to each other.
And so do you teach these in your program?
Yeah. So I have Marla actually on.
Oh, right. You were saying. Okay.
Yeah. And so I do require students to take 5 classes with her because I think everybody should take the Iyengar classes. If you definitely want to be a yoga teacher, these Iyengar classes are great for alignment. They're great to teach you how to use props. And they're also really good for making yoga accessible to everybody. So yeah, I still take her class. I also take Annie's class. I love Annie Carpenter's class. Annie was a dancer. And I was a dancer too. So just the way she moves her body, she's really great about hugging you right into your core in that central line. So I kind of flower it with my Ashtanga practice. And I think the older I get, the less rigid I become. I think that's something that I've been learning over the years, to really let go and flow.
That is the nice thing about getting older.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a natural, um, everybody doesn't want to get older, but there's really beautiful things that come, with that. So I didn't know you were traveling that much. That's incredible. So I know always that you're taking students to India and that you have your own practice there. What was that like and having your yoga practice there and experiencing it there, like as opposed to coming
Oh,
from Los
I was
Angeles?
just right. Yeah, I was writing about this. And in 2006, so Mati left in 2005. She left Yoga Works. And I mean, she had really established a firm base in my practice. But, and especially I found this in the West Side, there was no chanting. There was, the spirituality was there, but it was very physical. And so when I went to Mysore in 2006, I think I really, for the first time, saw this level of devotion. Like to go to India, you have to be dedicated. India is a very intense place, and you see everything. Like as much beauty as you're seeing, you're also going to see things that can really shake you up. I mean, the poverty there is really extreme. And in the practice of yoga, I mean, Patanjali talks about this idea of surrender. And if you can master this idea of surrender, like if you think about what happened in 2020 and we all had to surrender, that's the ultimate practice of yoga. And if we fought it and the resistance came up because our ego is trying to get some control on things, and that's what India does. It teaches you, because it's such an unpredictable place, it really teaches you how to let go and just trust the unknown. And I was still a young practitioner when I went to study with Patabi Joyce. And I dove full in. I went for 3 months and I practiced at 4 a.m. with like all the diehard Ashtangis, and that was very humbling for me. But that's also what planted the seed of my level of devotion. And when I came back from that trip, everything shifted for me. That's when I moved to the East Side. I started practicing at a much more traditional shala. I started chanting. I started doing pranayama. I started meditating more. I started really exploring more of the spiritual aspects of the practice. And, this is stuff, it's not tangible, but where the physical stuff that I was getting from the Santa Monica and Mati, it was more tangible. But this really taught me how to take the alignment and the structure I learned from her, and also how to let go and kind of like understand that yoga is an energetic practice. And you need both. You need that safety and the alignment, but you also have to shake it up and you have to build the vitality too. So, yeah. And since then, I've probably been to India. Oh, I don't even know. Since 2006, I went back in 2010. And then after 2010, every other year, I've gone back to India.
Wow. So what's happening with being able to go there now?
Well, I'm so part of the school of yoga. I have 150 hours in Goa, India, and this has been a dream of mine.
Wow.
And I had led two 200-hour teacher trainings in Goa. So, Goa, India, it is a great place for yogis. They actually have an Ashtanga community down in this part of Goa where I do my retreats at, and they have a number of really nice, good, highly organized, well-run retreat center. So it's kind of like a yoga community in Goa. You have the beaches, and it kind of has this like California, Burning Man, India vibe all at the same time. And I know a lot of people. I know people that can do kirtans and sound baths and amazing body work. So I have put together this 300-hour, and that was actually supposed to run in January of this past year, but I had to postpone it till next year. So I'm hoping that it'll happen. I think that it will happen. And I'm actually in the process of putting it together right now.
And so how are you doing that in how many months?
So it will be 2 weeks.
Okay.
And 2 weeks, 150 hours. And I'm the main teacher, but I'm also going to bring in kirtan, sound baths. I have this amazing body worker, some philosophy, a meditation, Sanskrit. So what I'm hoping is people get the feel of what yoga is. Like, a lot of times when I would just teach in LA, you do the trainings and then people leave the trainings and they go back to their lives and they get stressed out. And, they kind of unhook from all the insight that they were gaining from the training. And so when you go to India, you're completely immersed, like there's no distractions. So the only way you go is in. And so that's really something that I'm hoping to do, is continue to run my trainings out of India because of this. And online, it'll be a nice mix.
I would love to come for that. Oh,
Yeah, I know. I have a good
sounds
group. Yeah. So, I
so
mean, already
good.
the group is forming, the buzz is there. So we just have to get the borders to open up.
Right. Tell us about Ayurveda.
Okay.
I'm sure some people that are listening don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, Ayurveda is the science of life. And so, going back to India 5,000 years ago, when yoga was discovered, I mean, it was discovered with the rishis. They were meditating up in the forest. And then, they had all these downloads. Like yoga is really about keeping your body physically strong. And also it helps to purify the body so you can work on the meditation and ultimately having more clarity in the mind. Where Ayurveda is the sister science, and Ayurveda literally means the science of life. And it establishes practices, and really what the practices are they give you a routine and they help you align with nature. And nature is always changing, and so we have these elements of nature in our bodies, and some of us have more earth element, some of us have more fire element. I have more air element, and you can probably tell, like the way I talk with my hands and I'm animated. So do you, yeah. And so a place like Los Angeles is really dry, and it has a lot of air element, and it also attracts a lot of creative types. Now, if you notice, like during the fall, when the winds come in, and it starts kind of blowing everything around, and there's a lot of dryness, I have noticed that a lot of us Vata types get injuries, okay, because our energy is going up. There's no grounding. So I'm giving this as an example. And so what Ayurveda does is it gives you a routine to balance out an element in your body that might be lacking, or an element in your body that might be too excessive. And so this routine starts in the morning, and it guides you all throughout the day up until you go to bed, so you can align with this flow, this universal flow of energy that's always there. And the two practices together with yoga and Ayurveda help you find balance. And they believe that when you find balance and your soul is aligned with your personality, this is how you really start to tap into your dharma and your true purpose. So the practices of yoga and Ayurveda really help you reach your highest potential.
That's awesome. I didn't know that last part of what you were sharing. I mean, my thing that I love to talk about, and that we talk about on the show too, is sacred purpose and discovering it and serving it. And of course yoga does that, but like how amazing that these practices and these ways of being are part of the creation of them, is to actually get in line with all of that, to be doing that work.
Well,
That's awesome.
they say that, the only thing you can really control, I mean, is your body. I mean, this is our vehicle, and Ayurveda and yoga, especially the asana, teach us how to, create health and vitality in our body. And then through that, we can start to control the more subtle aspects of the mind. But we can't, have a healthy mind if our body's not healthy.
This is really good timing for me to just have you here and be hearing all of this, because I've kept up with, I keep up with my practice, just because once you go into it, then it does feel like something that you always need when you get away from it. But there's a lot of this that I've been away from, and I remember like how aligned it made me, and how I was having that experience when I was practicing in all of these ways.
Yeah.
So it's really just awesome to hear your voice, and the teaching is, I haven't been in your class in a while, so I'm really excited to actually check out what it is that you have offering and take some classes there. It just sounds awesome.
Thank you.
So the program that's coming, that you and Jean are teaching, and is, how long is the program?
So
A whole month?
it's 20 hours. It's from, I have to check the dates, but I think it's April 28th or April 29th to May 2nd. So it's a Thursday to a Saturday. 9 to 11 is practice, and 12 to 2 p.m., and this is Pacific daylight savings time, is the lecture. And so we'll explain Ayurveda. And we'll also go more specific into the doshas, and everybody will have a dosha test. So you'll understand if you're vata, pitta, kapha, or a combination of both. And by the end of the weekend, you'll leave with a dinacharya, which is you'll actually leave with a routine, as well as, uh, tips on how to establish a healthy diet, a healthy practice, what time to go to bed, what time to get up. So you're going to leave with this routine by Sunday. People pay Ayurvedic doctors a lot of money to do this. So in this course, you'll actually just be able to have the information and the research to be able to create your own routine to establish more balance.
It was really life-changing for me when I started to learn about Ayurveda.
Yeah.
And when I took my yoga teacher training with Joan and Jean, I broke my foot. I broke my foot on the first week, and that when getting into learning about Ayurveda and realizing the hours that I was awake and the type of substances I was putting in my body, like drinking coffee and when I was drinking coffee and all of the other ways that I wasn't, I'm very vata and I need a lot of grounding and I need not to drink coffee and things like that. You were just talking about injuries in the fall. I totally hurt my foot really bad and was on crutches for like a week this last fall. I think I hurt my feet when I'm out of balance.
And I think we did the teacher training in the spring, but yeah. And the feet are definitely all root chakra and grounding. And, you can have coffee as a vata or even a pitta, but, you want to hydrate first because coffee is drying. So have a lot of water before and after. Put coconut oil because or ghee. If you're vata, put ghee because of the oil. It'll help to balance out the dryness. So that's what Ayurveda is teaching you. Like everything is good, but we just have to understand balance.
Okay, so for anyone that's listening, why don't you tell us, give us some like verbal links that we can hear. I'm going to put a link to that program that you're offering. I'll put a link to your school. I'll put all of that information in the show notes. If you're listening to the podcast, it'll be in the podcast notes. If you're on YouTube, it'll be in the video notes. But just for someone who's listening right now.
Well, my website's joanhyman.com and all my information is up there. I'm pretty active on social media. Joan Hyman on Instagram, Joan Hyman Yoga on Facebook. And also the School of Yoga has its own sites, its own website where you can go and you can purchase recordings, from our past year. So that website is called school.of.yoga. And you can also sign up for upcoming modules there too. And I think that's it. And I have a YouTube page and I actually have some free content on there. And my YouTube is Joan Hyman as well.
I can link that here too. So people can just click on it and go right over and check out your YouTube page. Thank you so much for coming here and for sharing with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share or that you would like to leave us with?
Well, it's an Aries New Moon. So
you're an Aries, aren't you?
I'm an Aries.
It's your birthday new moon, right?
Yeah. So, I have to say, I feel like the energy has been shifting. I just got back from Mexico last week. I've led my first retreat in over a year. So I feel like this is a good new moon to set positive intentions. And it's also kind of represents the first of a cycle. So it's a good time to really plant seeds on, how you'd like this year to manifest.
That's absolutely true. Aries, it's activation, initiation, motivation, action. What I was reading about this new moon was that this is a really good time for, new moons are always good time for new beginnings, but Aries is the beginning of the zodiac cycle. Yeah. So this is when all of these new year types of things are going on, rebirth. And so if you're ready to choose something new, this is a powerful time to do it also.
And nothing's in retrograde. Yeah.
Yes. Yay. We've had a lot of retrograde last year. And that was kind of part of, a lot of the things we were experiencing. So, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for you. And, congratulations on, all of the new that came out of last year. And this sounds really awesome.
Thank you. And it's also congratulations and great to connect with you.
Hmm.
I saw, like, about a couple months ago, I saw you walking on the street and I was like, that's Jamie. Here we are.
Yes, we are over here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, happy new moon, everyone. Thank you, Joan. Everybody, please go check out her offerings, and I'll see you next Sunday. Blessed be.
All right. Thank you.